Welcome to the Unit 1.3 Part 2, where we're going to locate points that are a fractional distance from one endpoint. So, what do we do? Let's look here. Let's look at a number line example. So, the idea here is you need to find the distance between 2 points, or some type of line segment. So, I'm going to give you something a little bit here. So, we have different points here, A, B, C, D, E, F on a number line, and I want you to find another point, X, on AF, line segment AF, that is 1/6 of the distance from A to F. In other words, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's do that again. In other words, find the distance from A to F. Then find the distance that would be 1/6 of that, and then from A, go that distance. So, here we go. A to F. In some formula, F is at 5, A is at -7, so I can say 5 minus a -7. Remember, subtract the numbers, subtract the points, or whatever. Yeah, that's it. Absolute value of that. So make sure you always get a positive answer. So I know the distance from A to F is 12. Now, 1/6 of that would be 2. So I want to find a distance from A that is 2 away, which is at -5. So X would be at -5. Okay? Let's do another example of that. Same thing. Okay, so now let's find a point on CE, line segment CE, that is 2/3 the distance from C to E. Okay, so I'm going to find the total distance from C to E, and then I'm going to go 2/3 of the way from there. Okay, so C to E, C is at -4, and E is at 2, so 2 minus a -4 would give me 6. 2/3 of 6 is 4. So starting at point C, I want to go 4 units over, and that would be my new point, or the point that would be 2/3 of the way there. And that is at 0. And there you go. Okay, so kind of keep in mind here that the steps that you're going to need to do is find the X distance. If we do with a coordinate plane, you also need to find the Y distance. And then you got to multiply the fraction to each distance and add that to the start point. Whichever point they're saying is the start point, and we kind of go from there. So even on the number line, you technically are doing like steps 1, 3, and 4. If we go to a coordinate plane, we do a little bit more. So on a coordinate plane, we need to make sure we find the X distance and the Y distance. So we don't necessarily use the distance formula because we want to find each distance separately. Okay, so find R on NM, line segment NM, that is 1/4 the distance from N to M. So notice here I'm saying 1/4 the distance from N here. Like that right there is my starting point. I'm going to work from that point. I'm still going to find the distance for the X and the Y. So what are the X's? Well, the X distance is, say, -3 minus 2, or 2 minus a -3, as long as I make sure I subtract the X's. And then the Y distance is subtract the Y's. Okay, so notice here I've got 5 for the X distance and 6 for the Y distance. Now I'm going to take each one of those and multiply them by 1/4. So I multiply each one of those by 1/4 and I get 5/4, and that should be 3/2. It will fix in a second. Give me a second here because I totally messed that up. There we go. Then I showed the rest of the answer. Oh, no, wait, go back. I hate it when I do that. All right, so anyways, you can see here that once I find I multiply these the two distances by 1/4. I got those numbers, and I added them to the N point. Notice I added the X and the Y coordinates of the N's. These are my points. That would give me the point R. That is 1/4 of a distance from N to M. As I'm going from N to M, the total distance or whatever, represents 1/4 of the way there. Okay? Let me do one more example of that, and then we'll be done with this. Okay, so here is the question. X is a point at -3, -6. Y is a point at 5, 6. And I want to find a point M that will be on line segment XY that is 1/3 the distance from X to Y. Notice how I'm organizing this. I think if you do this, it helps with the organization. That'll help you understand this a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to take the X distance. Remember, I'm subtracting. So I take the X coordinates, -3 and 5. So negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8, but the absolute value of that would become positive 8. Then I'm going to do the y distance. Negative 6, let's put a minus here in the first. Negative 6 minus 6, which is negative 12. And I'm sorry, because of the absolute values, it would become positive 12. Remember, these little lines right here mean they would make it into a positive answer no matter what. Okay, then I'm going to do this by 1/3. So I'm going to multiply both of these by 1/3. I do that, I get 8/3. And here I get 4. Okay, and then from there I would add these two to the first point they mentioned, the x. So I'm going to add this to the negative 3, and I'm going to add this to the negative 6. Notice I'm adding the x with the x and the y with the y. Okay, so 8/3 times the negative 3 would give me, let's see here, negative 1/3. How about I write a third, not a half? And then here, 4 plus negative 6 would be negative 2. So M is a point at negative 2, or I'm sorry, negative 1/3, comma, negative 2. Okay. So notice here how I've got that organized. It kind of flows straight across, and you kind of can do that. Now, on a test or a quiz, again, quiz you can have all this, you can use your notes. But a test, you might make note like, okay, put the y's, put the x's, and like put little notes there so you know what to do. Okay. Anyways, that is it for today. That's all I'm going to go over. I do hope you don't. Well, if you have any questions, make sure you ask, guys. I'm here to help, so make sure to ask. But thank you for your time. Y'all take care.